one side we're considering like a possibility for science, and on the other side we're considering profitability for science. So how does that, like, what's the connection, or what do you see as a value of supernatural possibilities in helping, I don't know, some kind of profitability in science? Or
I'm sorry, this is
I'm sorry. The second question is, which has been assumed that because I was the dissertation director of both of these students, I both believe in intelligent design and in evolution. I don't believe in intelligent design.
Okay. Well, I was assuming that. I was wondering about what you would consider to be the possibility of metaphysical possibilities as, you know, a means of motivating profitability for science.
Oh boy. Look, profitability for science. I'm enough of an idealist about science that I really care about science serving humankind. As a matter of fact, I'm scared shitless about what we're doing right now with our educational system, with thinning it, underfunding it. Teachers we don't pay teachers enough to get teachers who are other than thoroughly dedicated into the schools. And when they get there, they have to worry with students who want to avoid hard classes because the parents don't push them hard enough. They're worried about avoiding teaching evolution, even if they believe in it, because they're going to catch hell from parents or school boards. They don't have the textbooks to teach it available to them, if they do. We have a government that appears only just recently to have recognized that global warming might be happening. I wouldn't want to be here this summer. And I'm deeply disturbed, actually, that science is not allowed to better serve the projects that say, let's not talk about individual people doing log rolling for grants. Let's talk about the list of reports that have been published by the National Academy of Sciences on what we ought to be doing with respect to global warming, with respect to rare diseases, with respect to the AIDS crisis. By the way, no scientist I know thinks we should be withholding condoms from Africa, although some government that I know of does. There are so many areas in which public policy is interfering with what we know we should be doing. That's what I want to see changed.
Yes, I'm not sure if I'm articulating this correctly, but Carl Sagan, who was instrumental in the Nova series, wrote a book called Cosmos. It was done in the 80s. And one of the problems that did perplex him was the origin of life, which has been, a conundrum that has evaded a lot of people. But he did develop a theory, or his pet theories of panspermia, the planning of the seeding of life, but did he have any empirical evidence to back that up, or was it just stated strictly on philosophical grounds?
I'm no expert in panspermia, but as far as I know, there has been absolutely no evidence ever in support of a doctrine like that. The arguments have really been on whether or not some people find that a much more plausible hypothesis than saying that conditions on early Earth were such that life would arise naturally here. Even if you do believe in panspermia, then you have to worry about where that life came from, how it arose there, and it has to be coupled with some hypothesis that says that wherever it is that it first arose, it arose naturally, and it was much suited, and the environment there was much better suited for the de novo origin of life than it was on Earth. But that's about it, all that can be said about the status of that proposal. Thank you.
For Dr. Nelson, in all of this discussion, people have used the term design and use agent or agency without, as far as I know, making any attempt to explain how such a designer, which presumably is not material, not made of atoms, not corporeal, can have any effect on the material world. When billiard balls collide, we all say two solid objects hit each other. But if you get down to a trillionth of a centimeter, they don't touch at all. There are electron shells in one repel the electron shells in another. And those electron shells, or as I like to put it, abuzz with Heisenbergian indeterminacy, so that if a designer is going to affect a physical object, it's going to have to be capable of some very complex calculations, which no computer can do as far as I know. And I would like to know if you find this a problem at all, or if you are simply willing to invoke what essentially is the world of magic, to say that a non-material agency can affect the physical world. Most people don't think in terms of hands clapping, not touching, but they don't. And yet your designer has to be able simultaneously to affect gazillions of atoms in a way that makes them move at single electron shell levels.
If I understand your question correctly, you're saying that I must give some physical account of how the designer interacts with matter in order to make a design inference. Is that correct?
No, I think that if you're going to talk about design, you have to explain how it works.
How do I do this? What's the physical account of how I raise my arm to make a point?
A lot of things going on in your brain, some of the pre-conscious.
So let's have it. Give me the physical chain that commences in my brain that terminates in my arm going up.
There's a lot of neurology and neuroscience being done on that right now.
But you can see that my arm is going up, and you can infer that I'm making a point, and you know that I'm doing it for a reason. In other words, you can infer the design here. Yet when I ask you to give me the physical account of how I do it, and at the fundamental level that you appear to wish to have that account, it's not forthcoming. We both know it's not forthcoming. So I think it's actually false that to infer design, I need to know anything at all about the actual physical mechanism. How does Michael Jordan, he can't do it anymore, he used to, jump from the free throw line and dunk a basketball, gorgeous, beautiful, active, athletic skill? How does Heifetz play a Paganini concerto? They don't know. They just know that they do it. And it would be irrational to deny that they do it because we don't have some kind of fundamental physical account in terms of basic particles. So I'm sorry, if you tell me that I have to provide you with that account, then I don't think you can tell me that my arm is actually going up when it is. I think you've set the standard for detail here way, way too high.
Well, if we remove some of the neurons, your arm won't work.
Yes, obviously, if we cut the nerve, it won't work. But what I want from you is the physical story that commences in my brain where to make a point, I raise my arm. It's not there. You can't provide it to me. No one can. Yet we know that we can infer design, intentional action on the basis of what I just did. So, look, it's possible for any theory to set the bar evidentially at a place where it's impossible to reach, but let's just be reasonable. That's not necessary to infer intelligence.